Before we get started here this evening, I'd like to be very clear about a few things. Like, have you ever like done stuff before where you're thinking about it or whatever, and like you're not quite sure if you've like thought it before, or like if it's a new thought, or if it was someone else's thought that you appropriated for yourself? I like to be Claire in moments like that you just saw, because Claire offers a lot of insight into who we can be.
And thank you all for coming here. Pop Tech is without a doubt, and it has been that way. For long enough.
What can I say? You know, it's been a great year, coming to a close, and all I can say is.
We talk about design often. At some point during any human's lifetime, they will use the word design, and that's a big deal. Aside from the and the a and the an in various languages, design is the fourth most popular word used. Before design was constructed, we had the Mesopotamian era, and we all know how that was. It's not so much as so little as to do with what everything is. But it is within our self-interest to understand the topography of our lives unto ourselves. Now, we know that everything here is an illusion and that we are somewhere else. But the cool thing about that is it feels pretty real. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty convincing. So, big credit to those people working hard there. So, why Camden, Maine? Simple answer. Because. What does because mean? Because has a B in it, at least one C, and a couple vowels. This combination of letters and vowels together to create a fairly pronounceable word gives us the strength and the power as individuals and as human beings to seek within ourselves not only the triumphant remorse of those who have compelled against us in a way that does not necessarily benefit us in the long term, but give us the strength in the midterm to show how the reversal of those roles of which we have come fairly accustomed to, let's admit that, to acquiesce and reform and remodulate the world around us. Internally, we're pretty gross. There's a lot of liquid and tissues and things, and it's pretty gross to think about. The future states that there is no time other than the collapsation of that sensation of the mirror of the memories in which we are living. Common knowledge, but important nonetheless. We've been going through a few different dynamic changes. I can assure you, my compatriots here, that everything that you've seen here so far is just the beginning.
It is true, I tend to not do those as much as once I had done so for too many times these I've said, and it's not, you can't, right? But we feel, and that's how it is. These hallowed halls that we are in now, thank those who made it. We feel differently now, more than ever, than we just did moments ago, and that's important to remember.
So for years, we've been thinking about consciousness in the way that we have. And it's to my total pleasure that these things have worked out.
A lot of you guys have been writing in about what's this box here. I believe you two over there were specifically asking about this box. It's a reverb box. Contains all the reverbs of the known universes,
but slightly differently. Now, over time, a lot of you guys have been writing about certain things that other people have said that certain things are not, about the certainty of those things that should be certain amongst those people who are so certain about the certainty of uncertainty itself, and that's fine. But we've been working about this for quite some time.
We have here, this is a phase 1, 2, 3 modulator. This is one of my favorite devices here. This was invented by George Prism, and who is lead architect on some of the new AI technologies which have been incorporated into some of the mundane technologies that we use every day.
4 years ago, I worked with a few people at the Brookings Institute, and I arrived at a conclusion. Tomorrow is another day. Not just any day, but it is a day. It will get here. There's no question. And the important thing to remember is that this simulation is a good one. It's believable, it's tactile, you can reach out, things are solid, you can move objects from one area to another. You can feel your body. You can say, I'd like to go over to this location, and you can move this mass of molecules through the air over to another location at will. That's something you live inside of every day. Now, with the allocation and the understanding of the lack of understanding, we enter into a new era of science in which we feel nothing more than so much so as to say that those within themselves, comparary or non-comparary, will figuratively figure into the folding of our non-understanding and our partial understanding to the networks of which we all draw our source and conclusions from. So, feel not as though it is a sphere we live on, rather an infinite plane which has the illusion of leading yourself back to the point of origin. Once we understand that all the spheres in the skies are just large infinite planes, it will be plain to see. Okay?
When we think of spheres or influence, we don't necessarily put them together immediately. We think of them as slightly separate. But what happens when a sphere becomes influential? And the influence of that sphere becomes larger than its original diameter. We've all seen Ghost Protocol, and we know what happens. So I'll stop there.
As an ethnomusicologist, I've seen it all, as they say. I've seen as much as I've seen.
When I decided to invent a few things that I did when I was growing up, and I grew up quite rapidly, a lot faster than I remember, because if I think about it now, it's like it was pretty fast to get here. If I think about how long it took. for me, you know, being born and then being right here in this moment, right here with you guys, pretty quick. So I did grow up pretty fast. And with that, I learned a lot about the unhinging principle, geomagnetics, the inference problem, telemetrics, also non-molecular dynamics, which is anything that's not molecular, which is nothing. So that's a futile attempt to understand something. We're always trying to invent some new niche. So,
One of my favorite things that I really enjoy doing is doing different types of songs for people, different types of people. I know most of the people in here are Anglo-Saxon and have been raised here, are from here, and are not people of color. People of color are people that you can look at and you're like, okay, there's a little bit of color there. So definitely be on the lookout of those people. There's a lot of people. I'm not going to point them out. Listen, I want to talk to you about a couple relatively real issues. A lot of people wrote in on email and a couple other forms of communication that essentially are all the same thing, but just branded different names. That innovation is an innovation unto itself. At one point, innovation didn't exist. Someone had to create some kind of a word that created the feeling that it feels like to hear the word that we hear when we hear innovation. Innovation is a word that's only been around in the English vocabulary for 63 years. A lot of people don't know that, and if you did know that, that's great. Now, we all know that poverty is super easy to fix, and using modular dynamicism, we can recreate, unfold, resequence, understand, and reshape the way we think of thought itself. By constantly monitoring thought itself, it will not only lead you nowhere, it will give you a headache. So try not to do that. Instead, try to do something that's way outside of the box. Like some place that if you were to see how far away from the box you were, you wouldn't even be able to tell what that box was anymore compared to the landscape that you're comparing it against. Getting outside of the box is more than just getting out of a box and walking away. As children know, sometimes boxes are very difficult to get out of. Why is it any different for us? Between glass ceilings, dirt floors, and boxes, we need to know that a bottom-up approach is not only an approach that starts from somewhere that we believe to be the bottom, but an approach that was painted by several painters throughout the ages and the Age that led us to understand where can we be sometime in the future from now. And I can guarantee you, you will move at least 20 feet within the next hour. I can guarantee you that, and I have algorithms that can divine and predict that, utilizing movement prediction patterns, hair follicle samples that have been taken throughout the entire time that you've been here. And of course, the common spectral analysis.
now, as a child or as a person, if I think of either one of those two things and those two perspectives, I can solve almost any problem. We learned about the passion of skateboarding, that it is a passionate thing because it is a geomagnetic event. Every centripetal event that happens with that little plank of wood, metal, ball bearings, and whatever hybrid synthetics that are used in the actual wheels themselves, we know that grip tape or not, someone's going to be pulling that ollie to nosebleed, whether they be on some kind of a ramp with extra vert added on, previously ridden by a BMXer, causing some of the screws and some of the pieces that were adjoined to be not as adjoined as they used to be, and that's why the BMXers get a bad rap for skating on half pipes. Whether it's any of those things, we know that we need to be eating more salads. You know? And I'm sorry, I'm preaching to the choir right now, but we need more salads in our lives. Yes, carbohydrates, awesome. Yes, they're good. Sugars, they just immediately hit your bloodstream and you feel like you're on top of the world for that 2 minutes. But remember, there's a consequence. Don't let your sphere get too big. Don't let your influence get out of control and become asymmetrical. Keep your influence symmetrical and spherical. Keep all areas of your lives alive. Always consider Gaia and consider yourself a constant namaste, no matter what. Keep your spheres where your spheres belong. Try not to expose your spheres too much to people. Namasphere.
Some people talk like this.
Other people talk like this.
Some people are like this.
Some people like that.
Some people are like this. I don't know why they're like that. It's been an awesome ride. I mean, like, the first time I came here, I met some ridiculous people. And the second time, some more ridiculous people. It keeps getting ridiculouser. But it's just amazing concentration of people around you. But also not only knowing that whoever you're talking to, even a volunteer, oftentimes you're talking to a volunteer, someone who has a sign on them that says volunteer. And you're talking to them and you find out that they're like a theoretical physicist that works at some laboratory somewhere. And you're like, why, what? So I think that's important to realize. Every person in the world around you is really good at something, you know what I mean? So like if this is the sample, here in this situation, it's kind of a special situation, but if you go out in the world, all around you constantly there are amazing people and you'll never know, unless they have a badge on, but like, you'll never know unless you ask them. And oftentimes when I ask people things, they oftentimes say something often. And the more often that I notice that they're saying things that I think that they're going to say over and over again, which would classify as often, I feel as though there's a tranquil sunset setting in over my mind, which indicates that the world is going to be a pretty cool place at some point, and then it's going to be horrible again. But then it's going to be really cool, and then it's going to be not so good, and then it'll be pretty decent for a while, and then it's going to be like, uh-oh. And after all, that's the engine of reality. But that gets us a little bit stronger. So with that knowledge that I've gotten from and an amazing dodo case, which I still have. I do still have it. Although I did drop it once and the little frame cracked, I had to glue it. But anyways, the thing is that what I'm trying to tell you here today, stay in school. It's a good place for kids. And I know a lot of you parents here are not into school, but I'm here to reconvince you. Putting kids in school is a good idea, okay? Well, I've talked to a lot of you guys, and you're like, I'm not putting my kids in school. I get it, and it's super, like, punk rock. I get it. But consider it. Okay.
Thank you very much, Basil. A lot of people going like, when your next album coming out? And I'm like, I don't know, But a lot of people like, what I'm saying? You know how people in the record industry, you know how they always want you to be doing some stuff or whatever? And you be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? A lot of that. They can't, you know, some people, they were like, what kind of music you want to make? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh, I know what kind of music you make. And they like, why don't you tell us? You know what I'm saying? Oh, you know. You know what I'm saying? But no, that was a long time ago.
And so I've been collecting various tunes, if you will, throughout the epochs and eras. And the thing that I've landed upon this evening, I want to share for you, this is a Lemurian song. This is a civilization before the Mesopotamians, as many of you know. And they contained advanced technology, as we've been discussing earlier. They had the ability to levitate and decrease the volume and mass of objects at will. Utilizing sequenced thought processes which entail very detailed memorization, visualization, and sensing. Okay.
This is my final piece. And just remember, everything you are is more important to realize the negative space, as music is only the division of space, and it is the space we are listening to, divided as such, which gives us the information in comparison to something other that gives us the idea of what the idea that wants to be transmitted wants to be. So please, without further ado.
So this first song that I'm going to do for you, this is a song that comes all the way from Australia, where I'm from, and I want you guys to really give it up. This goes out all the joeys out there, the kangaroos, all the wallabies, the bilbies, all of them.
This is a song about anything that you can.
This is a beat that I acquired. I travel a lot. Without further ado, I'd like to present this a new piece, and the reason why it's new is because I don't remember it. So that's new enough. Check 1, 2.
This next tune, this is a harder edge tune, so some of you guys may want to leave. This is a song that I'd like to dedicate to all the gross things that we are walking around, and also just a celebration of all of you guys here, the people up there as well. Let's not forget them. There's some people behind the walls as well. Walking around and doing things as well. And there's some people behind here. There's actually 4 people running this entire show, technically. That's it. There's just 4 people. They can divide into 5 people per person. So there seems to be a lot of people back there, but they're all being controlled by one central consciousness. First, I'm going to move this over to about here. Okay? I'm going to take a look at how high it is and how low I will eventually be. And I'm going to assess if this is changeable. In this particular configuration, it is changeable. Now I'm going to physically apply my knowledge of my experience. I'll rotate this counterclockwise, as has been decided by engineers around the world. And doing the opposite produces the same result at a different height. Now, I will sit down, I'll rotate this, I'll put this down to about this angle, and I'm going to ask myself, is that enough distance so that when I sit down, it will come to about here? If not, how can I fix that? Well, I can either move this closer, or if I look a little bit harder, you see this little roundy bit. We're just going to turn this again, like this. Just going to extend this. You see it has an extension, okay? All right. So, now I'm going to recalibrate this. Okay? All right. And I'm going to turn this on. Turning it on now. It's processing. It's booting up. Okay? It's identified what it is. All right. So this is my last song. This is about love, because at the end of the day, that's pretty much all you got. And that's an important ingredient, as we saw in The Fifth Element. And I think that we need to recognize all the things that influence us.